27 years. That is not a sentence. That is not a fine. That is not a setback. 27 years inside a prison cell, on an island surrounded by freezing ocean water, breaking rocks in a limestone quarry under a sun so bright it damaged his eyes permanently, sleeping on a thin mat on a concrete floor, allowed one visitor every 6 months, allowed to write and receive one letter every 6 months, for crimes he did not consider crimes, for the belief, the simple, radical, dangerous belief, that every human being deserves to be treated as a human being. And when they finally opened that prison gate, when he finally walked out after 27 years of everything they had done to break him, he was not broken. He was not bitter. He was not consumed by hatred for the men who had stolen the best decades of his life. He walked out of that prison and he changed the world, not with an army, not with violence, not with the revenge that every human instinct in his body had every right to demand. He changed the world with forgiveness. And today we are going to talk about why that is the most powerful, the most difficult, and the most important thing a human being can ever do. It is February 11th, 1990, Victor Verster Prison, South Africa. A 71-year-old man walks through a white gate into blinding sunlight. His right fist is raised, his face is calm. Around him, thousands of people are screaming, crying, singing. News cameras from every country on earth are pointed at this moment. The entire world has stopped to watch one man walk out of a place they were never sure he would leave alive. His name is Nelson Mandela, and the first thing he does, before any speech, before any declaration, before any act of political theater, is reach for the hand of his wife beside him. A simple human gesture. From a man who had been denied simple human gestures for 27 years. But here's what most people do not think about when they watch that footage. They see the triumph. They see the raised fist. They see the beginning of the end of apartheid. They do not see the interior battle. They do not see the years inside that cell when hatred was the only logical response to what was being done to him. When bitterness was not a weakness, but a perfectly rational reaction to systematic, institutionalized, government-sanctioned cruelty. They do not see the man who had to fight every single day, not just against his captors, but against the darkness that his captors were trying to plant inside him. Because that was the real imprisonment. Not the cell, not the island, not the rocks. The real imprisonment was the attempt to make him into the thing they needed him to be. Angry, hateful, violent, justifiable. And he refused, day after day, year after year, decade after decade. He refused. That refusal, quiet, disciplined, almost superhuman, is the real story of Nelson Mandela, and it is the story we all need to hear right now. Let us go back further. Let us go back to before the prison, before the trial, before the world knew his name. Rolihlahla Mandela is born in 1918 in a small village in the Transkei region of South Africa. His father is a chief. His childhood is not without dignity. But from the very first moment he steps outside his village and into the world that white South Africa has built, he understands something that no child should have to understand. He is not equal here. Not in the law, not in the street, not in the economy, not in the eyes of the government that controls every aspect of the country he was born into. He goes to university. He studies law. He moves to Johannesburg. And what he sees in that city, the pass laws, the forced removals, the poverty deliberately engineered, the daily humiliation of an entire people, lights something inside him that will never go out. He joins the African National Congress. He organizes, he protests, he marches. He believes for years that peaceful resistance will be enough. It is not enough. The government responds to peaceful protest with bullets. In 1960 at Sharpeville, police open fire on a crowd of unarmed protesters. 69 people are killed, shot in the back as they ran, and something shifts inside Nelson Mandela. Not toward hatred, but toward the painful, reluctant conclusion that the system he is fighting will not be moved by moral argument alone. That sometimes, in the face of a violence that has no conscience, you must speak in the only language it understands. He co-founds the armed wing of the ANC. He becomes a wanted man. He goes underground. He travels the world seeking support for the struggle. He trains in guerrilla warfare. And then in 1964, they catch him. The Rivonia trial. He stands in a courtroom and delivers a statement that becomes one of the most powerful pieces of spoken testimony in the history of human rights. He ends it with these words. He says, "I have cherished the ideal of a democratic and free society in which all persons live together in harmony and with equal opportunities. It is an ideal which I hope to live for and to achieve. But if needs be, it is an ideal for which I am prepared to die." The judge sentences him to life imprisonment. He is 45 years old. He will not be free again until he is 71. And in that gap, those 27 years, lives the most important transformation in the story of Nelson Mandela. Not the political transformation of a nation, the personal transformation of a soul. Robben Island. The cell is 7 feet by 8 feet. He sleeps on a mat on the floor. He wears short trousers, the designation given to black prisoners to mark them as less than adults. He is addressed not by his name, but by his prisoner number, 466/64, and every morning he wakes up and makes a choice. The same choice, quietly, without witnesses, without applause. The choice not to become what they were trying to make him. There is a letter he wrote from prison, smuggled out at enormous personal risk, in which he talks about the danger of hatred. He writes that to hate is to let your enemy live in your mind rent-free, to let them continue their destruction of you from the inside even when they no longer have access to you from the outside. He saw it with terrible clarity. The apartheid regime wanted him bitter. They needed him bitter. A bitter Mandela was a discredited Mandela. A bitter Mandela could be dismissed as just another angry black man seeking revenge rather than justice. His forgiveness was not weakness. His forgiveness was the most sophisticated and devastating political weapon he possessed, because a Mandela who emerged from 27 years of imprisonment without hatred was a Mandela the regime could not explain, could not contain, could not dismiss. He had defeated them at the deepest level possible. He had refused to let them determine who he was, and when the gate opened, when he walked out into that February sunlight with his fist raised, he was not just free from the prison. He was free from everything they had ever tried to plant inside him. That is the turning point, not the release, the refusal. The daily, private, unwitnessed refusal to let 27 years of injustice turn him into someone who could not lead a nation into healing. Lesson 1. Forgiveness is not for the person who hurt you. It is for you. We have been taught a lie about forgiveness. We have been taught that forgiveness is something you give to the person who wronged you, that it is a gift to them, that forgiving someone means excusing what they did, that it means pretending the wound was not real or the damage was not done. Nelson Mandela did not forgive the apartheid regime because they deserved it. He forgave them because he deserved to be free. He understood something that most of us spend our entire lives resisting, that unforgiveness is a prison, and the cruelest thing about it is that you build it yourself and you hold the key and you choose every single day to stay inside it. Think about the person you have not forgiven, not the small things, the real thing, the betrayal that changed you, the person who took something from you that you can never get back, the wound that you carry so deep that some days you do not even feel it anymore. It has just become part of how you move through the world. You have been in a cell. And unlike Mandela, nobody forced you in. Forgiveness is not a feeling. It is a decision. It is the decision to stop letting a person who has already hurt you continue hurting you through the real estate they occupy in your mind. It is not about them. It has never been about them. It is about you reclaiming yourself. Lesson 2. Your greatest power is who you remain under pressure. Here is the test that life gives every single one of us at some point. Not the test of whether you can succeed when everything is going well. That test is easy. Anyone can be generous when they are winning. Anyone can be patient when they are comfortable. Anyone can be kind when nobody is hurting them. The test is who you remain when everything is being taken. 27 years of systematic dehumanization. And Nelson Mandela walked out of that prison with his values intact, his dignity intact, his vision intact, his capacity for love and reconciliation intact. That is not luck, that is not personality. That is a daily practice of identity protection that most of us will never be tested to that degree, but that all of us need, because life will test you. Maybe not with a prison cell, but with a diagnosis, with a betrayal, with a financial collapse, with a relationship that ends in a way that makes you question everything you believed about yourself and the people around you. And in that test and in that crucible, the only question that matters is this: are you going to let what happened to you determine who you become? Or are you going to remain stubbornly, deliberately, intentionally the person you decided to be? Mandela decided who he was going to be long before the prison, and the prison could not change it. Decide who you are going to be before your trial arrives, because it is coming. For all of us, the trial always comes. Lesson 3. True strength is the willingness to build rather than destroy. When Nelson Mandela became the first democratically elected president of South Africa in 1994, he had every instrument of state power in his hands. He could have used it differently. He could have pursued retribution. He could have built a government that systematically reversed every advantage that white South Africans had accumulated under apartheid. He could have made them feel, for a generation, for a century, what his people had felt. He did not. He established the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. He wore the green and gold Springbok jersey, the symbol of white Afrikaner rugby identity, to the 1995 Rugby World Cup final, and embraced the team's white captain in front of a stunned nation. He had tea with Betsy Verwoerd, the widow of the architect of apartheid. He invited one of his former prison guards to his presidential inauguration as an honored guest. These were not small gestures. These were seismic acts of deliberate national construction. The choice, over and over again, to build rather than destroy, to unify rather than divide, to use power in service of healing rather than revenge. And here is the lesson for you. You have power in your life, over people who have hurt you, over situations where you could take rather than give, over moments where destruction would be easier than construction. The measure of your character is never what you do when you are powerless. It is what you do when you finally have the power to make someone pay. And the greatest people who ever lived, in every generation, in every field, chose to build, choose to build. I want you to imagine something. Imagine being taken at 45 years old from everything you love, from your children, from your work, from the sunlight on your face in the morning, from the simple daily freedoms that you and I take so completely for granted that we do not even notice them. Imagine being put in a 7-by-8-foot cell and told that this is your world now. And then imagine, in that cell, in that silence, with nothing but your own mind for company, imagine choosing not to hate, not because it is easy, because it is necessary, because you understand, with a clarity that only comes from sitting alone in the dark for long enough, that the only person hatred destroys completely is the person who carries it. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years choosing not to hate. 27 years of choosing who he was going to be when the gate finally opened. And when the gate opened, when that moment came that he had waited a lifetime for, he did not disappoint himself. He walked out as the man he had decided to be. Not the man they had tried to make him. Not the man his wounds had every right to make him. The man he had chosen. There is a quote, and these words should live somewhere inside you for the rest of your life. He said, "As I walked out the door toward the gate that would lead to my freedom, I knew if I didn't leave my bitterness and hatred behind, I'd still be in prison." Read that again. If I didn't leave my bitterness and hatred behind, I'd still be in prison. The gate had opened. The physical prison was over. But the real prison, the one built from everything they had done to him, that prison only ended when he made the choice to leave it behind. And here is the question that should change your life today. What prison are you still in? Not a prison with bars and guards and concrete floors. The prison you built from your unforgiveness, from your resentment, from the story you keep telling yourself about what was done to you and why you cannot move forward until someone acknowledges it. The gate is open. It has been open. You are the only one keeping yourself inside. So here is where we land. Not with a political lesson, not with a history lecture, with a personal challenge. Think of the one person, or the one experience, that you have been carrying. The one that lives in the back of your chest and tightens when you think about it. The one that you have dragged into new relationships and new opportunities and new chapters of your life because you could not leave it at the door of the last one. I am asking you to do the hardest thing. Not for them. For you. I am asking you to begin the process of laying it down. Not all at once, not perfectly, not because it was fair or right or deserved, but because you deserve to be free. Because your future does not deserve to be held hostage by your past. Because the life that is waiting for you on the other side of that forgiveness, the relationships, the peace, the creative energy, the capacity for joy, none of it can fully reach you while you are still locked inside the cell you built from everything that hurt you. Nelson Mandela chose freedom while he was still in prison. You can choose freedom right now. In whatever room you are sitting in, with whatever weight you are carrying, the gate is open. Walk through it. And when you do, when you feel the first breath of air on the other side of forgiveness, raise your fist, not in anger, in victory, because you did what the strongest human being who ever walked into a prison cell did. You refused to let them win. If this video reached something inside you, share it with one person who needs to hear it today. Leave a comment telling me what you are choosing to let go of right now. Subscribe to Motivation Arc, because every week we bring you stories of people who faced the worst the world had to offer and chose to remain extraordinary. Tata Madiba, rest in power. We will see you in the next one.